Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're looking at 1 Kings 8 and 2 Chronicles 5. Kind of the main thing is that the temple has now been completed by Solomon, and because the temple has been completed, they have to bring the ark to the temple, and then there's this grand dedication. God's presence falls on the temple in the Holy of Holies. They have a huge party. There's a lot of worship. There's a lot of proclamation. There's a lot of harps and strings and lyres and priests. Oh, and also a lot of sacrifices. Like we're talking like hundreds of thousands of dead stuff. So it's a it's a pretty grand spectacle. There's a lot going on, and we're kind of entering into a new phase of worship of the Lord within biblical history. It's kind of interesting, kind of exciting.
Yeah, so I guess some of the things that I just picked out as interesting, I suppose, I was just reading in our study Bible footnotes that for this chapter and continuing on to tomorrow's chapter as well, Chronicles, it says that the chronicler's account of the dedication of the temple is much longer than his description of the construction, because he was more concerned about the meaning of the temple than its physical structure. So I think that's actually kind of interesting. Like, whenever I think of Chronicles, I think of like very detailed, like here's the numbers, here's the facts, here you go. But in these chapters, it's much more concerned about like the meanings of things, and more of that significance than its actual like physical significance. So something that's kind of cool, I guess, is that like the certain things that they're bringing back into the temple, like we haven't really seen some of or heard some of these or of these things for quite some time. So the ark is coming back in, and what's interesting is they're like, oh, the temple is so huge, it's so grand, like we had read in previous chapters. But it talked about how the poles that were holding the ark were actually too long, and they actually stuck out into the holy place, not just in the most holy place, which is terrifying to me because from what we know before, if you touch anything you're not supposed to be touching, you just fall over dead. So if I was one of those people, I'd be like probably freaking out a little bit, and also kind of surprised that this huge place can't even hold this tiny little thing.
I don't think it's necessarily a tiny little thing.
Yeah, but it's supposed to be so big. They didn't have that problem before.
The poles are quite large. It is interesting that when they brought the ark, when they transported it, they did it the right way. So I think that there could be just a reminder of what had happened to Uzzah when David had them move the ark on a cart that was pulled by like oxen, I think. This time the Levites are making sure that they carry this thing correctly, even though they have a little bit of a distance to carry it. The other interesting thing, that's kind of like a whole Bible interesting kind of thing, is that when they bring the Ark of the Covenant into the temple, inside the Ark of the Covenant, it's actually called out in the text, is the tablets of the testimony, that is the 10 Commandments that God had put the law on when he gave it to Moses.
Right.
And so we have in this story an item from all the way back in Moses' day. We have the 10 Commandments from Moses inside the Ark of the Covenant that was created all the way back in Moses' day, carried into this enormous temple that Solomon has now finished creating. It's kind of like this full circle thing of like God's promises.
Yeah.
And none of those people along the line, I don't think, could have understood or could have known what this was going to look like when it finally occurred. So you have now, like, God had dwelled in this goofy tiny little tent. Now he has officially moved into this enormous temple that is just incredible on all sides. And there's this huge celebration to celebrate the fact that the Lord now has a dwelling place in Jerusalem.
Well, and something that's interesting about that, you kind of mentioned this when you opened the episode, is that the amount of sacrifices that were made as they were dedicating the temple was like astronomical.
Yeah.
So it's funny because, again, like we were talking earlier, I usually think of Chronicles as being the one that has like straight up numbers. In this chapter in Chronicles, in chapter 5, it literally just said there were so many that couldn't be numbered. In contrast, if you look in 1 Kings, where Ryan was reading today, it actually numbered out the amount of, what was it, like goats, rams? I'm trying to find it back in my spot.
22,000 oxen and 120,000 sheep.
Okay, so like ridiculous amounts of sacrifices. But what I can kind of like gather from that, and I don't know if this is even a correct assumption or anything, but I know that in like my own church history or experience, when there is something to be celebrated and you've got all the old ladies coming and bringing their casseroles and their things, like there are like even just like celebrating like fellowship time together, there's like this cool feeling of just like gathering together, sharing a meal together, and like just celebrating the body of the church. Like I can't even imagine what this was like for these hundreds of thousands of Israelites and these hundreds of thousands of sacrifices to finally like mark this moment of like, here it is, God, here's the space that we have been wanting to have for you for so long. Like that must have been just like a really cool community, like awesome feeling, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely like a grand scale kind of thing that people are all together celebrating the Lord and what he's done. They are enjoying peace on all sides.
Yeah.
So the warring, crazy times have passed. They can now just rest in God's presence. And it's like a great time of celebration, celebrating what God has done. There's another kind of interesting foreshadowing that goes on here in chapter 8. In verse 22, the heading is Solomon's prayer of dedication. Solomon stands before the altar of the Lord in the presence of the whole assembly of Israel and spread out his hands toward heaven. And he kind of gives this long speech that basically covers that the people, when they obey the Lord, will do well. When they disobey the Lord, they should pray towards God in the temple, and God will hear their prayers and will forgive them. And at one point, he talks about if your people are carried away into exile. It's in verse 46. If they sin against you, for there is no one who does not sin, and you are angry with them and give them to an enemy so that they are carried away captive to the land of the enemy, far off or near, yet if they turn their heart in the land to which they have been carried captive and repent and plead with you in the land of their captors, and plead with you, saying, we have sinned and have acted perversely and wickedly, if they repent with all their heart and with all their soul in the land of their enemies, who carried them into captivity, man, I'm having a hard time reading it. And pray to you in their land, which you gave to their fathers, the city that you have chosen, the house that I have built for your name. Then hear in heaven your dwelling place their prayer and their plea, and maintain their cause. This is going to happen. The people are going to be carried away into exile, and we will see, I think, lots of Israelites doing this, but Daniel specifically. Daniel is going to be doing this. This is actually why Daniel is thrown into the lion's den, because when he is taken away into captivity into Babylon, he prays 3 times a day facing the temple. You can see that in the text, asking the Lord to allow his people to return. So Daniel is aware of what Solomon had said, I think.
Yeah.
And he practices what Solomon had said. And ultimately, God hears those prayers and allows his people to return. And Solomon would not have known that or anticipated that.
Yeah, it is interesting that that whole chunk of scripture from 1 Kings 8:22 to, let's see, 53. Brian read a good chunk of it, but it is all just like, I guess like warning signs in many different ways. If you sin against your neighbor, if the people of Israel are defeated and the land is taken, or if you are carried away as captive. So like, it's actually not even just being captive. It's like several things that will more than likely rear its ugly head as we continue to read. So like this great time of excitement. And it is kind of interesting if you think about people just in general, when life is great, you hear those kinds of warnings. And it's like, oh yeah, sure, whatever. That's awesome. This is a great time for us. Let's not spoil it with that. So I think those things are like easily forgettable in times like this, and they will, like we were saying, just kind of rear their ugly heads in the future as we continue the story of the Israelites. So interesting.
So the temple has been dedicated. The Lord's presence has filled it. It feels very similar to when the Lord's presence filled the tabernacle. And it was just kind of this incredible experience. So the really great thing, I think, for today, this is another day where it could be kind of hard to come up with your part, but I think what is interesting is that we believe that we carry the presence of the Lord with us. So we don't need a giant cloud of smoke to fill our churches. We don't need a giant...
However, we sometimes do.
no offense to the smoke machines at your churches. We just don't need all these things because the presence of the Lord is in us now today. We are a temple of the Holy Spirit. So we're like in a whole new phase of Christian history that is pretty incredible. So I think remind yourself today of the fact that God's presence is in you. Take time to worship the Lord. Take time to communicate with the Lord, talk to the Lord. If you're lost in sin, which, that's not great. Pray to God, just like Solomon says. Solomon says over and over and over again, if they sin this way, they can pray to you, they can repent, they can be forgiven. Those things remain to be true. We don't need to pray toward the temple because the temple's not there anymore. But God continues to be gracious and merciful to those who are lost in sin. And when they repent for their sin, he forgives them.
So we'll be back tomorrow, guys. We'll be back in Chronicles and then a little bit of Psalms. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks so much for listening to God's Plan, Your Part. If anything stuck out to you, if you have any questions, or if you'd like to receive a Bible, you can email us at godsplanyourpart@gmail.com. Also, if you're enjoying the podcast, please consider supporting us through the link in our description. We love that you're on this journey with us, and we hope you have a great day. See you tomorrow.